There are just so many awesome ways to prepare and serve up shrimp. But for me, I'm all in for cocktail shrimp and fried shrimp. It's just good. Shrimp are fantastic as an appetizer or served up as the main protein to any entree. And they cook super quick, and it couldn't be more evident than when you boil it or fry it. You need to watch super quick. We've got some prep, and the cooking is going to go insanely fast. Sound good? Let's cook. Let's start off by making some homemade cocktail sauce because, well, they're going to go great with both of these shrimp recipes. I've got a bowl with ketchup. The next thing I'm going to do is add in some Worcestershire sauce for some nice salts and natural umami flavors. Next, a little bit of lemon juice. And then last but not least, some raw prepared horseradish. Creamy horseradish will not work in this recipe. Now I'm going to add in some chili sauce. This is a jarred condiment usually found near the ketchup section in the grocery store. If you can't get it, just substitute for all ketchup. At this point, I'm going to hit it with a few dashes of hot sauce for a little bit of a kick, and then just simply whisk all of the ingredients together until they are completely combined. We're next just going to store it in the refrigerator until we're ready to use it. And now for the shrimp. These are wild caught, as I always use wild caught, U10 shrimp. Let's talk about sizes for a second. There are several different size shrimp that you can use, especially in these two recipes. I like extra colossal, which means they're U10, which make up 10 shrimp or a little bit less to a full pound. You can see all the other sizes below. Oftentimes you will find shrimp that are not peeled and deveined like these. So the peel is still on, but the vein is taken out. Other times you'll find them not deveined or peeled at all. And then of course there are completely peeled and deveined shrimp. These are perfect for boiling. We want that shell on there. So what I'm going to do is take it over to a cooktop, crank the heat on high, a large pot of water. Once it comes to a simmer after about 5 to 7 minutes, I'm going to start adding in a few ingredients, beginning with some salt. We want to make sure the water is as salty as the ocean, so add accordingly. Then I'm going to squeeze in the juice of some lemons, and then once they're squeezed, I'm just going to add those in there as well. And then last but not least, I'm going to add in some pickling spice, which I learned from a chef a long time ago, and I feel like it really bursts the flavor. I've got a great homemade recipe for pickling spice on my corned beef recipe. We next want to bring this pot of water to a boil, which will only take a few more minutes. And then add in the shrimp all at once. This will take about 4 minutes at these extra colossal size. Remember, if you're using smaller shrimp, it's going to cook even quicker. So just move them around slightly to get them begin cooking. And my chef would always tell me, as soon as they float, they are done, which you can perfectly see here. Simply turn the heat off. Let's take that pot over to the countertop where I have an ice bath or a large container filled with ice water. I'm going to use a slotted spoon and fish these shrimp out, pun intended, and add them right to that ice cold water so that they stop cooking and become cool. But you don't want to let them sit for too long or else they will become waterlogged, so maybe just 4 to 5 minutes. Then we peel them. So taking the shrimp out one at a time, what I like to do is pinch the legs and sort of wrap the shell around just like this. And that gets most of the shell off, except for that little bottom part, which we'll take off. We will leave the tail on in this shrimp cocktail recipe. Set them to the side and serve them or cover them and leave them in the refrigerator for up to 4 days. And then in true cocktail fashion, using a cocktail style glass, we're going to add in some cocktail sauce right to the center of this glass. And then add as many of the shrimp around the outside edge as you'd like. It is very traditional to garnish with some lemon and just slice the center so that it goes right over the glass's edge. And then some greens. You can use leafy greens or parsley like I did. And then you have a delicious shrimp cocktail that is fantastic to serve up as an appetizer. Now let's talk about fried shrimp. The first thing we need to do is start to heat up some oil. So I'm going to be adding in some oil here. I like to use peanut oil in this recipe. We're going to crank the heat on to low medium. We want to get it to 350 degrees. Now let's pull out our wild caught shrimp, and these are extra jumbo, or it will take 16 to 20 of these to equal 1 pound. But you of course could use any size you'd like. So if you want to peel and devein these the old school way, you would simply need a paring knife. And I promise you, there's no one better to ask than me when it comes to this. I used to work at this country club in my teenage years, and guess who was low on the totem pole? Me. We would have seafood night once a month, and there's little old me peeling and deveining 100 to 200 pounds of shrimp every single month. It was terrible. So you just peel it, you slice along where the vein is, scrape it out with a knife, rinse it, boom, go on to the next one. Hopefully you don't have 100 pounds. Here's what we do now. So using a $6 shrimp peeler and deveiner, you just jam it through the top and sort of crank up, which will release the vein. And then, just like I did with the shrimp cocktail, squeeze the bottom legs, wrap it around the outside, and then pinch off that bottom part. I will also leave the tail on this recipe, but you can simply discard it. I'm also going to save those shrimp shells for my shrimp bisque recipe. Then just rinse each one, make sure the vein is completely rid of under some cold water, and then set it to the side on a plate because it's time to start our standard breading procedure. In a small bowl, or I like to use a pie pan, I'm going to add in some all-purpose flour. And you can season at this point with salt and pepper or your favorite seasoning, but I've got a fantastic Cajun-style seasoning that I'm just going to add right in there. You can check out the recipe at the link above, and just mix that around using a whisk or a fork until it is completely combined. Set it to the side, and then for the second part of our standard breading procedure, we want to make an egg wash. So in a separate pan, I've got some whole large eggs. What we're going to do is thin it out a little bit by adding in some whole milk, followed up with a little bit of white distilled vinegar. You could substitute lemon juice if you'd like. We're going to season it with salt and fresh cracked black pepper, and then using a fork or a whisk, simply whisk this until they are completely scrambled and smooth. Once it is to this consistency, we're going to set that pie tin aside, and then for our last breading procedure, I was out of pie tins, so I had a pie glass dish full of breadcrumbs. What we want to do here is also season them with salt, give them a little mix, and then we're going to set it to the side and set everything up. So we are just about ready to bread all these up. I do want to give a shout out to my friends over at Hagen's in Chicago. It's the best fried shrimp I've ever had. No doubt. Anyone that goes in there would say the exact same thing. It's on the northwest side of the city. It's so good. And I was chatting with them and I said, do you guys use flour or cornmeal as your breading? They said, no, we use breadcrumbs. And I was like, oh my goodness, breadcrumbs it is. That's why I use it. However, if you don't have breadcrumbs and you don't want to use it, you could absolutely simply substitute out for all-purpose flour, maybe add some salt and pepper. You could add a little cornmeal to that too. But for me, these breadcrumbs, oh my gosh, there's nothing better. Let's bread them up. So starting with this standard breading procedure, we are going to proceed by adding the shrimp to some flour, coat it on all sides. Next, we're going to hit it in the egg wash. Mix it around a few times, make sure it's completely coated, and then last but not least, it's going in our seasoned breadcrumbs. I like to put some over the top and pretty much press it down very, very well on both sides to make sure it is completely coated in those seasoned breadcrumbs. And I just repeat this process all while setting them on a cookie sheet tray lined with parchment paper until all of them are done. Now let's take these over to our cooktop and take a look at our oil. Got a thermometer. Make sure it's around 350 degrees. If you don't have one, just add a little breadcrumbs in there. If it starts to fry, you're good. Now adding just about 5 to 7 of these at a time to our frying oil. It's going to take in between 3 and 3.5 minutes for these to cook until they become perfectly golden brown and of course cooked throughout. These look absolutely fantastic. So what we're going to do is set them to the side on a sheet tray lined with paper towels to drain off any excess unwanted oil. Once they are all finished frying, we're going to take them over to the countertop to plate these up. It really is all about these fundamental basics. I always tell you, you put them into practice over and over again, and you will be a better cook in the end. That is my promise to you. And all of the homemade food you make from scratch, oh my gosh, it's going to be so good. Knowing how to peel and devein the shrimp, knowing how quickly they cook, making that delicious cocktail sauce, all of these things, I promise you, you're well on your way, my friends. So we're going to plate up a few things before we serve all this goodness up. In seafood restaurant fashion, I'm going to add the shrimp along with some cocktail sauce to a little basket with parchment paper, some lemons, and then I'm going to finish by garnishing with a little bit of fresh chopped parsley, and boom, we've got two delicious dishes, fried shrimp and, of course, shrimp cocktail. I don't even know where to start with all this deliciousness. Looks amazing, smells amazing. If you learned something and you love this video, please like and share it, and definitely check out this video right here. I made it for you all. You'll love it. We'll see you on there.